I am Frank Neal, and I have a trading problem.
I am Dynasty Outhouse, and I have a trading problem.
I am Rocky Petrella, and I also have a trading problem.
Hey, everybody, and welcome to session 348 of the Trade Addicts podcast, a proud member of the Dynasty Addicts podcast network, the DAP network, if you will. And of course, we will. And it's a weird time for us because we normally record on Tuesdays. We have a whole week to look forward to, but there was football already played. And as if you read Twitter enough or Blue Sky, championships already decided on two different games. So it certainly feels like it. But just the power trio today. We can kind of get right into the news. First off, how was everyone's Christmas? Everyone good? Everyone happy?
Nice and relaxing. Didn't do much. Go to my in-laws for Christmas Eve, where they cook a nice meal. Oh man, someone made. I know I'm answering a question from the listener questions, but I'm talking about it anyway because that's how excited I was about this. They made cheddar and chive biscuits, where it's just like a normal biscuit, but they put cheddar and chives in it, and in the oven,
super biscuit.
The cheddar that was on the bottom like melted out and then got all nice and hard and crunchy. I ate more of that than anything else. Like the pot roast was beautiful, the potatoes, the everything. I just kept going back for cheddar chive biscuits. They were just so good.
I got no food comments. So, but yeah, my Christmas was pretty great. It's nice too having older kids, so we didn't have to worry about pretending there's a Santa.
No 6 a.m. wake ups or anything either.
You can edit that out, Russ, in case any kids are listening. But but yeah, and then yesterday we mostly have our in-laws come to us. So basically, I just sat at home all day and exchanged presents, and then my wife made a whole bunch of food, most of which I didn't eat.
But I'm sure on brand.
Yeah.
Well, good. It was good. I went to my fiance's family, so I didn't have to travel. They live here in Chicago, so easy for me. But there was some football on. There was food had. We had not a pot roast, a beef tenderloin, which was good, and yeah, no ham. I'm not the biggest ham guy, but I might be alone in that.
Ham was one of the few things I did eat yesterday.
To me, ham is a deli meat. I'm not a fan of like ham steaks or
super
like
spiced ham. Yeah. Well, so normally I kind of write a lot of news on what's going on, for this week or the next couple of weeks. It's a weird time. There's a lot of good start sit podcasts out there. If you need one, I'm Frank in the chat. DM me. I'll give you one. But we're not going to cover kind of right now news because it's the last week for 90% of people, and for those other 10%, please fix your league. Don't have leagues playing week 18.
No.
So Russ can opt out of this one, but Tank Dell, his knee. Like I know I use this as hyperbole, but I think his knee actually exploded. He tore it in all three places. His, kneecap dislocated.
Catching a touchdown.
I know, and he caught it too.
He held on to it,
which is crazy.
You gotta go.
Yeah, right. So, Deontay Johnson was claimed off waivers. I don't think he played much yesterday. I wasn't watching this game super closely because we were kind of doing Christmas dinner and all that stuff. But I guess we'll start with Johnson real quick. Is there a chance he goes back to Houston next year? And would you be interested in that, Rocky, as the Deontay guy?
If they're actually going to play him,
yeah,
as opposed to the Ravens, especially. I mean, there's no Tank Dell. I think you have a note on here coming up about Diggs, where he might not be back next year too. I mean, Deontay as a legit actual 2 to Nico, I think would be in a pretty good spot. I mean, I don't know what the hell happened. Stroud's been way down this year compared to last year, but I still think he's talented, and I still think he's going to be good. Maybe sophomore slump, I don't know, but yeah, I would be. I mean, I'm not obviously paying a ton for him, especially given what we saw this year. But
right,
if I can get Deontay for a late second, I'm still willing to take that chance.
Yeah.
No, if Deontay signs with a team, Deontay's good. Like we've always known that. The dip on Deontay was always being hurt, and then the year or two of Pittsburgh's quarterbacks. Like Deontay was always good. That was never really a question. We got a little overexcited in the beginning where we were putting him as like a top 15 wide receiver.
Top
But
12.
Yeah.
I couldn't remember how high we went.
I said he'll be a wide. Well, that was my bold take, is that he'll be a wide receiver one this year.
But like he's good.
He wasn't bad in Carolina though.
He's playing on a team that will actually pay him, cause like full free agency.
Mhm.
Then I'm in. At the price of like a second, I'm in.
Yeah, I think Houston's a really good fit for him. He can sign a 1-year kind of prove it deal like Diggs did, although that didn't work for Diggs. But be there because it sounds like Dell's out for 2025. Reading all the Twitter.
It feels like it would be a miracle for him to come back at this point.
So he's out for at least a year. Diggs, like Rocky mentioned, his contract is like the weirdest thing ever. They like gave him a signing bonus, but he's void. They can void him after this year, but he can come back. It's like the weirdest contract I've seen on Spotrac. But what do we do with Tank Dell? And I know I said Russ is going to opt out, but I'm going to ask him anyway. What are you doing with your 120 Tank Dell shares now that?
What choice do I have to do but to hold them? Like, I'm not going to bother selling them for a third. I'm not going to.
And you're not going to get more than that.
Right.
Yeah, at this point, you're not getting more. Even if he was doing well this season and then blew up his knee the way he did, you're still not going to get much more just because of the amount of time he's going to miss and the fact that it's going to pretty much be the entire season.
Yeah.
All you could do is hold. I mean, if you like the player, go send 2/3 to go get Tank Dell. I mean, why not? It's a long shot of long shots at a very low cost.
Right.
But it's rough. It is.
And like you said, I mean, second major leg injury in a year or two is just scary going forward. Actually, even if he comes back or what?
Is it the same leg?
I wasn't sure if it was the same.
Leg.
I'm going to say it's strong. I believe so. I don't know for sure.
But yeah, I just luckily I don't have nearly the Tank Dell shares that Russ does. But I would be doing the same. Just you have to hold. There's no point in doing anything else. I'm not really interested in buying either because like I said, even in 2026 is what is he at that point? He hasn't played a lot of the last 2 years. He's missed a lot of the last 2 years before that.
Yeah.
Parts of 3 years before that. So yeah, it is what it is, and I don't think there's much to do either way. Sell, buy, anything like that.
Yeah, I don't know how this affects. I don't know how injuries like this affect contracts, but if my math is right, in 26 would be his contract year too, right? Because he was a second or third rounder in 23, so
that
would be his contract year too. So it's going to be interesting. And I only have, I think, one Tank Dell share, and it's in TA5 where I took him first in the dispersal. So life's great. Kirk Cousins is expected to be cut before March 15th. Any ideas where you guys would put him? I had an idea if you guys don't.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I think he fits in Cleveland because Stefanski was his OC in Minnesota. And I said this on the pod with Zach and Tommy last week. They're really stuck.
Yeah.
The Browns. They have to, if they're, there's now rumors right after I said they are going to cut Deshaun Watson. There's rumors they're going to keep him and let him compete and all that stuff, which would be crazy to me. But if you can get Kirk for like a Russ Wilson, here's $1 million because he's going to get a bunch of dead cap money paid to him anyway to go prove himself, that would be a really good fit for him to go play with Judy. And he's going to have a good, group around him. And Stefanski, like I said, was his OC in Minnesota before he went to Cleveland. So if you made me pick a spot, that's where I would bet, but no one knows. And it's tough with him because he didn't really give you much tape this year. So.
Yes, that's what I was going to say. Like, I'm the biggest Kirk stan there is. I don't know if he's just washed at 35 or this is a result of coming off the injury or what. And I mean, there's like kind of like, I mean, not in the same way Tank Dell because he's not injured. But
Mm-hmm.
I almost think it's not worth. I have a million Kirk Cousins shares. That's not worth selling him because I'd rather hope that there is a tick back up the year after the injury than sell him for like super cheap right now because he stinks and doesn't have a team basically. Right. So yeah, I don't hate the Cleveland idea. I can't think of any other great spot off the top of my head.
Jets.
I was thinking that was another one.
Jets
if Rodgers walks, So
yeah, I wouldn't hate either of those places, but yeah, he's another kind of hold for me in my 10 to 12 Kirk shares. So
we don't have to go super in depth, but did you guys like what you saw to Penix? I know he didn't have to do much, but he put the ball in the receiver's hands. So
he didn't look bad.
Right, yeah.
And that's huge, to be honest. Like that's what I was looking for. Like it would first game in an offense that's not built for him, it wouldn't be fair to really judge him. Mm-hmm. But if he looked like Anthony
3 picks
passing, then it would be tough to be optimistic at all. But he looked fine, in which case that's huge to me. Like, so am I going and buying him based off of this? No, but like if you have your shares, I think you feel a little safer in them.
Yeah, I basically echo what Russ said. I was kind of neutral on Penix. He wasn't a guy I hated, but he wasn't a guy I loved coming in. I have a few shares just because he would go so late because of in theory being behind Cousins for years. But I liked it, because of he was drafted 8th. You knew he was going to start eventually, so I was getting him early to mid seconds in some leagues. So I'm cautiously optimistic, but it's hard to say much off of one game.
Yeah. And we have Penix versus Daniels on Sunday night this week, which should be fun. All right. So I touched on this a little last week, but following up on it, the Darnold and the Vikings have not had any long-term extension talks. So you guys weren't on last week. So I named you two co-GMs of the Vikings. What are you doing?
You let him walk. Someone's going to give him money. I think he's doing too well to say, hey, Sam, we want you to play a couple of games until we know McCarthy's nice and ready. Because McCarthy's going to be the guy. He can't not be the guy at this point. I don't think you can treat Darnold as a bridge right now. I think someone would be willing, like if the Jets don't go after Cousins, the Jets, maybe they go and give a rebirth to Darnold. That would be. Imagine all the people that would be their Darnold jersey where they could just rock it again. Like how great they'll feel about it. Or like, who knows? Like maybe someone drafts Cam Ward nice and early, but they don't feel like he's ready for the NFL. So at least you get a full year bridge as opposed to 5 games until McCarthy's knee is nice and ready to go. Like I think there's just too many better situations than Minnesota for Darnold to stick around.
Russ keeps stealing basically what I'm going to say, but yeah, with McCarthy there, I don't see how you can sign him. He's one of those guys. He's been too good to not make some money, but he's not good enough that you really should be committing a ton of money to, in my opinion, still. And the fact that they have McCarthy, and the fact that you got this season out of Darnold, maybe that says O'Connell can just take a quarterback and do whatever with them with these weapons, and that makes me more unlikely to sign Darnold. The fact that Darnold actually did this, if that makes sense. Even if you don't believe McCarthy is the next coming, that coaching staff might be able to get the best out of him after what we saw from Darnold this year. So I think it would be crazy for them to pay significant money. And if I'm Darnold, I'm going to want significant money after this year and potentially a playoff run. So
Yeah, I think, looking at Darnold, I've seen 2 teams thrown out there. I saw the Raiders this week, not by anyone substantial. And the Rams were someone that was whispered to be liking him if Stafford goes. So
that would probably be best case for Darnold, maybe. A good quarterback, good offensive coach, and pretty good weapons. So,
yeah. And then the last kind of 2 little notes, J.K. Dobbins' practice window opened. Could play this week, means he'll be good for next year. Nothing super significant. And Pete Carroll has interest in the Bears job. And I speak for Chicago where I say no thank you. I don't want it.
Who are the owners of the Bears?
McCaskey family.
McCaskey's. I'm rolling up a newspaper. No. Bad.
Yeah.
How old is Pete at this point? Like 75 or something?
Yeah. He's older than Belichick, isn't he?
Yes, he was the oldest coach.
Yeah. No, thank you. This all freaks me out. I said this, I think, last week, was everyone's tying Ben Johnson to Chicago. Seeing stuff like this makes me say none of this is a guarantee. And they're going to mess this up somehow. So
it's definitely going to be way too interesting to be able to pick it out right now. There's definitely going to be something weird going on.
Anyways, Rocky, since Russ took all your stuff during the news, do you want to do trades or listener questions first?
I like to finish up with the trades, so let's do the listener questions.
Okay.
Everybody else picks the trades first, it seems like, all the guests.
Okay. Perfect. So listener questions. I literally rolled mine from last week. I am super lazy this week. I'm not producing very well, but Zach and Tommy, I asked them this last week, but it's stashing season, so I'll bring it back for you two. Who are some of the rookies you still like and want to stash before a bounce back in year two? I think Zach's and Tommy's both kind of general answers were the running backs like Ali and Corum, not quitting on them too early. But what do you guys think? Russ, you can start.
Well, no. Let Rock go.
Let Rocky start.
I knew you were gonna make me start because I have but my mind is like a complete blank.
All right, then I'll go. I'm good. I'd be surprised if Zach didn't say Ray Davis, because he's a big Ray Davis fan.
Yeah.
And I'm going to give a very ironic answer, and you'll find out during the trades why it's ironic. I'm still a Roman Wilson fan. That position is not filled in the Steelers, and he was hurt the entire season. And Theo Johnson was showing out a bit, relatively showing out before he ended up getting hurt. So I still really like him. So I'm still into holding on to the two of them. But the answer is always the running backs. We give up on the rookie running backs way too easily, regardless of who it is. Though I did love to see the Keaton Mitchell usage after Derrick Henry didn't feel the need to play anymore on the Netflix games, which I guess we'll talk about in a bit. But yeah, Roman Wilson and Theo Johnson are the two that are really sticking out to me. And of course, the real answer is Marvin Harrison Jr. Don't give up on Marvin Harrison Jr. yet.
After thinking about it for a second, one that I'm trying to think of some that Russ and Zach and then Tommy didn't mention. One of the running backs that hasn't been brought up is Trey Benson, who's a guy I did like coming out and hasn't gotten a lot of run because Connor's been so good again this year, and maybe he will be again next year. But I still think he's got a lot of talent, and maybe he can take over for Connor did get banged up this week, so that's going to happen to older running backs. Maybe it happens next year. I know they extended them earlier this year, correct?
2 years, I think. Yep.
Yeah. So, I mean, he's not going to be the lead guy probably without an injury, but I still like the talent. Roman Wilson is one that I liked a lot. Me and Russ both liked just, basically the Pittsburgh thing. They seem to develop wide receivers pretty well.
Yep.
And the other one that I like that hasn't done a ton, but had some little flashes, I thought, before he got hurt and then came back, was another tight end, Jatavian Sanders for the Panthers. He was looking nice. And then he had, I think, went out for a month on IR or something like that.
Because really the neck where he bounced off his head.
Right, that's right, yeah. And it hasn't done much since he came back, but tight ends take a while anyway. So, yeah, he's another guy I'd keep an eye on and look for maybe a little more progress in year two.
Yep. And I was racking my brain while you guys were talking. Tommy's answer was Pearsall. And I agree with that because Debo's a cap casualty, I think, if they're going to pay Purdy. And Purdy apparently wants real money. So
I would too if I was Purdy, yeah.
Right. He wants like Dak money, he said, specifically. So I think Pearsall is an interesting one. I agree with you guys on Roman Wilson. That was my answer. Zach did not say Ray Davis because the way I kind of phrased it was like a bounce back, and Ray Davis has been playing
He's been fine
already. Yeah.
Okay, so, fair enough. What are your thoughts on Jonathan Brooks?
To me, at this point, it's a bonus if you get anything out of him. I feel horrible because I drafted him in multiple first rounds at the end of the first round, but that one is the same ACL.
That
correct?
was absolutely the same leg.
Same ACL, and it happened later in the year. You're lucky if you get him back at all next year. You're lucky if you even if he comes back next year, if he does anything to boost his value or look good, because it's still going to be, they're usually not better until like a year after the injury. So at that point, I feel like anything you get out of Jonathan Brooks is a bonus. I mean, again, another guy, if you sell him, you're getting nothing. So what's the point? But I don't really want to try and acquire Jonathan Brooks just because he's at an all-time low or something like that either.
Mm-hmm. I like Corum still too. I don't think they're going to run Kyron's legs off. They might, but if they are, they are. But if they're not, Corum's still a very good player and was great at Michigan. And I like the thought of Connor and Benson as kind of like a little Lions backfield, where it's kind of the same principle, where Connor's kind of Montgomery and Benson is Gibbs. One
other tight end I'll mention that didn't really do anything this year, but I know a lot of smart people. I don't know much about him, but Ben Sinnott, am I saying that right? Sinnott?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, he blocked. Ertz actually had a probably better season than most people anticipated, so kind of blocked his way. And I know I saw somebody tweet that tight end who did nothing was blocked by Ertz, and then year two, they're trying to make him out to be Trey McBride. So
yeah,
I don't know if he's
or
on
Dallas Goedert even.
Yeah, that's true. Or Dallas Goedert.
Yeah. Thinking he'd be gone, and he never was. So.
Yeah, he blocked Goddard for multiple years. But so just another guy to keep an eye on.
But also, Ertz not under contract for next season as well. There's 3 pass catchers on Washington under contract. It's McLaurin, Sinnott, and Luke McCaffrey. That's it.
T. Higgins.
Maybe.
That actually would be a great landing spot. Yeah,
it would. Okay, from @MessyMessick, what are some of your favorite and least favorite scoring rules to have in Dynasty? Points per carry, first down, explosive plays, etc., and why? And I asked what was the favorite thing you ate yesterday and what you thought of the Netflix games. He said the best thing he had was smoked ham, which I think we've already spoken to, unfortunately.
All right, so I'm going to go first, and I am going to... It's not a surprise what I'm going to say. Don't play 2 tight ends. It's wrong. Play whatever makes you happy. Do you like trade deadline? Sure. Do you like 1 QB? Sure. Do you like standard, no PPR? Sure. Do you like points per carry? Don't make it too much, but sure. But 2 tight ends is literally wrong. It is for the wrong reason. It is not doing what you want it to do. That is the point of tight end premium, even though tight end premium I know is not perfect. But it is so much better at raising tight end value than 2 tight ends is. 2 tight ends it's falsely inflating value for players that still aren't scoring anything. You are forced to start the worst of the worst. There's no reason for it. It is absolutely my least favorite. I play very vanilla. I think my thing is I like to look at a player's stats and know how many points I scored. I do like points per first down, but since they don't show that on the screen, I don't do that very often.
It's part of why I hate half PPR too.
Yeah, I love...
It's harder to figure out what they scored.
Give me the Trade Addicts leagues, 12-team Superflex, PPR, tight end premium. I mean, 0.75 is even a little math you have to do, but I still don't like 0.5, and one full point still seems like too much. But that's really it that I have, and I figure just everyone knows the joke of me hating 2 tight ends. I might as well just go first.
Yeah, I have 1 positive, 1 negative. One that I don't really play much, except in redraft, but I kind of like it, and I never see it in Dynasty. And in my home redraft league and another redraft league I do, we get bonuses for 100 yards, which is I always like. It's always
very
fun
redraft thing.
It is, but
Yardage
it's never
bonus?
used. It's never used in Dynasty. But I think I may have 1 league where I threw it in there because I run 8 leagues or something. I like to switch up the rules in each league, but I don't play it at all. But I think it's kind of it's always fun to have this chance to have this a guy's gets 5 yards and you get 4 points off the play or something like that because they're at 96 yards. Because it's a 3-point bonus in the league I have it in for getting 100 yards. And this is also my chance to rail against trade deadlines, even though it's not technically a scoring rule, because I am in a league where I made the title game, and coming into the playoffs, I had Kirk Cousins and Jalen Hurts, and that's it. And I made the title game even with the Hurts injury, And there is nothing on waivers except Tanner McKee, who I picked up in case Kenny Pickett is also not playing this week. And that's basically it. So I'm screwed. I made the title game. I'm pretty much going to lose because I have no quarterbacks. So do not have trade deadlines. I'm sorry. I know Russ said trade deadline. No, don't have trade deadlines. Because
I mean, if I'm, you know me, if I'm playing, I don't want to have one. But if.
And I had no reason to, I mean, yes, I could have had a third quarterback, but I had no reason to believe 3 weeks ago I was in any danger of, barring multiple injuries, of being out of a quarterback. And now
one of them wasn't an injury.
Yeah, Cousins was benched, and now Hurts is probably out this week.
I love how both of you used a scoring rules question to rail about the two things you hate about lineups, which is 2 tight ends and no dynasty or in no trade deadlines.
Yeah.
I play in a lot of vanilla stuff too. I don't have a ton of things to add. I do like the 100+ yards, but you're right, it's very redraft. Haven't seen it in dynasty. And then last, Jonathan DFF underscore S Jonathan 02 didn't leave a question, but he said Netflix did a pretty good job. Almost felt like watching a network broadcast, and they had Chinese for dinner. It's very
that's my old school.
Yeah. Trying to think, traditional is the word I was looking for. Yeah.
Well, I mean, traditional Jewish. I was raised Jewish, and my dad's birthday happens to be on Christmas. So every single Christmas was Chinese food and movies because that's all you could do.
Yeah.
I agree with this other point, though. The Netflix did do a pretty good job. And there wasn't much issue with I know people were worried about, issues with buffering and things like that.
It glitched a bunch at the start. I wasn't see it
at the very beginning.
Yeah. I didn't see any of the glitching, but
I missed the Chief game, but Kendrick Lamar, you better bring it.
Yeah.
Beyonce.
Man, did Beyonce put on a show. Like, that's going to be tough to live up to. That was a very good show.
Mm-hmm.
And if that's going to be a thing, like, going forward, I mean, it's good for us, right? We get more entertainment, right? But, like, and also, I love the panel they put together. With what was it? Kay Adams, RG3, Manti Te'o, and Mina Kimes. They were great. So like they did a great job. They knew they had to live up to something, and they absolutely did. I think they did a really good job.
And this is super nerdy, but I thought Ian and Noah Eagle doing a game each was kind of cool. That Ian's son Noah was doing the other game. So.
Oh, was that it?
I didn't even realize that. Yeah, but I saw Ian Eagles on the one game. I didn't know who was doing the other game.
Yeah, his son was with Olsen,
who's just so good.
That Fox is going to regret that at some point. I just don't know when that happens. But
Greg Olsen is like the next guy.
Yeah,
or commentator. Like he's it.
It's crazy. Okay, so we can go to the trades now. TA Trades is 12 teams, Super Flex, PPR, tight end premium. 0.75 per tight end reception and 0.05 per return yard in all leagues except TA1, and we have no TA1 trades. So the first trade here is Devontae Adams and Adam Troutman for Roman Wilson, Theo Johnson, and a 25 seconds. So this must be the irony that Russ was.
That is the irony. Yes, it is.
So you traded
away the two guys that I said we should hold on to. And the bigger irony, now that we have the power of hindsight with us, I lost.
Oh.
So there goes that, trade deadlines because you're just going to buy championships. I tried.
Yeah.
I failed.
Yeah.
I did everything in my power. It's really funny because he sent me an offer that was a little more than this. It was Roman Wilson, Theo Johnson, a second, and something else for Devontae Adams and a fourth. And I'm just like, what about Roman Wilson in a second for Devontae Adams? And he goes to me, are you really going to let Theo Johnson come in the way of you in a championship? And I'm like, no. And then I lost by not a lot of points. So I was really sad to see both of these guys go, but I really wanted to win TA2, but at least I'll have a good chance at winning the third place prize.
Yeah, I think I would pay this for Devontae Adams. What's that? Basically like 3 seconds, if you're even counting Roman Wilson as a second at this point.
I don't know if you're counting Roman Wilson.
Yes, exactly.
So,
he was barely a second in the draft. I mean, he was, 210, 211, kind of. That's where he was sitting.
But spending the entire year on the IR is going to drop you a little bit. Theo Johnson probably worth a second just because of the premium. So yeah, 2 seconds for Adams. And hey, I got Adam Troutman back. Let's not.
That's true. Double Adams there.
There
But
I almost rejected and said, "You just dropped Troutman. Don't make me worry about it." But I just accepted it.
And Adams even came through this week. You just, I guess, the rest of your team didn't.
Yeah,
Adams had like 20 points. Yeah.
This trade, I get it, and I'm like the two of you. I like Roman and Theo still, but yeah, I understand what you have to do, and that's really all the insightful commentary I can give you. And so,
but let's
a good trade on both sides too. Yeah, I mean, I'm happy to get that for Adams if I'm not.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah.
I was about to say, let's use this to push Rocky's agenda of no trade deadlines, because I flippantly said it before, but everyone says, oh, you could buy a championship, but I'm now stuck with Davante Adams, and some other team has two young players I really like, and a second out of it.
Yep.
And he doesn't even get to play for the championship, let alone win it. So
exactly, like again, like we always assume we are right, and we assume these moves are going to actually help us win.
Yes.
So this really does have a chance to really only help the people that are rebuilding, and that's what you always want to help teams get better, and this is a way to help teams get better.
And we say it all the time. In my opinion, I don't track it, but that happens more often than not, that it helps the teams that are not contending more than it helps the teams that are trying to quote unquote buy a championship.
100%.
Yep.
And like, how often do you see, this is a bad example, but I'm just going to say it, like Ken Walker traded for Brian Robinson because you need Robinson now and not Ken Walker, and Ken Walker's out again, which we didn't even talk about.
Or like the example that Russ pointed out a few weeks ago, Madison trading Keenan Allen or CeeDee Lamb for Keenan Allen a few years back or something like that. Like, that's paying dividends years down the road for the team that got CeeDee Lamb. And I mean, and Keenan's still kicking, but I mean, CeeDee Lamb's going to be kicking for a long time.
Yeah. And by the way, we didn't say this because I said I wasn't doing week-to-week news, but congratulations if you have Zach Charbonnet on your championship, because holy cow, he's like top 5 maybe this week with no Walker or anything. So should be fun to watch. The next one's TA5. Saquon Barkley for Tank Bigsby, Roma Dunze, and 2 firsts, the 109.
No, sorry. 109 or 1010, because this is another situation where someone sold out to go get their player. And
got it. So it's one first. Okay. Looking at this,
power of hindsight, knowing that.
Yeah, right. So this was before. I don't remember when this was made because this is the one TA I'm in. I don't remember if this was before last week or not. If it was, congratulations.
He was trying to buy his way into the championship.
Yeah, okay.
Didn't work.
Yeah, and so congratulations. Barkley, he did it. So hopefully that was enough. He did his job though. I think all of this depends on if you think Roma Dunze is going to be the guy next year, because Keenan, I think, is a free agent and DJ is obviously signed long-term. So if it's Ben Johnson, which I'm going to keep saying if, because I don't trust it even a little bit, then Rome is a superstar. But if it's not, then you traded Saquon Barkley for probably not a lot.
At the time, I do this very easily. I mean, let's cross out Tank Bigsby because that is what it is. But Roma Dunze and it was his first. So Roma Dunze and my first for Saquon Barkley, the chance to win that championship. I think I do that very easily because this also doesn't feel like the wrong price.
No.
Like if this was 3 weeks ago, right before the playoffs started, this is still Saquon's price. Like there wasn't even any gouging going on. And I'm with you that I think that Odunze will be better next year than he was this year. But I still take that risk of sending him away to go get Saquon Barkley. Because again, just like Davante Adams, Saquon Barkley did his job. It just didn't happen to work out for this guy. And again, when I'm selling my first, especially in the playoffs, in my mind, it's the 112. So that's fine. Again, just didn't happen to work out. So again, to put this the other way around, if I'm no longer competing, I love getting Roma Dunze. I mean, it still feels a little light for Saquon Barkley. I'm not going to lie. Like, Saquon Barkley's still going to be Saquon Barkley next year. I'm not worried whatsoever about Saquon Barkley next year. But I don't hate just saying, all right, well, I'm out. Let's see what I can get. And getting a first in Rome Odunze. Like, I don't hate it. I don't think it's great. I just don't hate it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm with you too. I would lean the Barkley side here. And the only thing I'll add is sort of Russ started to sort of say it at the end there is just I think even beyond this year, I like this trade unless Rome Odunze just blows up. Because I think he's getting up there. I just looked. He's going to be 28 in February.
Yeah, he's 27 now, I think.
But I do think, those elite backs, I think he's the kind of guy that can be maybe not this year's Saquon Barkley because he's potentially, breaking the rushing record if he goes nuts the last 2 weeks. But I think he's a guy who can produce till he's like 30, like we've seen, Derrick Henry do, like Christian McCaffrey is sort of doing, outside the injuries. So, and obviously that's something to worry about with Saquon too. But I think he's a guy who you're still going to get another 2 to 3 years of some kind of production out of as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, like imagine getting Alvin Kamara production out of Saquon Barkley for the next 2 years. I think you'd be thrilled.
Yep.
Yeah, of course. But they'd have to throw to their backs more, which they don't do as much as the Saints do.
Correct.
The next one is TA8, and this is an interesting one with two really interesting players to me. Chuba Hubbard and 226 fourths because you have to have the fourths.
I have to.
And for Jalen McMillan and a 25 second. So, Rocky, what do you think of this one? You can start. I think it's super interesting, though.
Maybe I'm too low on Jalen McMillan because when I saw this, I was just like, yeah, I would pretty much do that for Chuba Hubbard. And then I was just sort of trying to look up his stats real quick because I haven't been paying a lot of attention to Jalen McMillan, and he does that. He's been fine, and he's a young guy. So, and I'm not a big Chuba Hubbard guy personally, but now that Jonathan Brooks, like I said, in my mind is pretty much out of the picture. I mean, you probably got another couple years of Chuba, especially after they extended him. I can't see them going, a day 2 running back necessarily again this year. Yeah. So I lean Chuba just because I think you're going to get significant. I mean, we've seen it this year, and I don't. And this is on a bad Panthers team, which could improve in theory, which would help Chuba. So if the offense is better, he's going to be better. So I would go Chuba there, but I think I may have been underrating Jalen McMillan a little bit.
Well, here's why before Russ answers, because Godwin is a free agent, so he could be the number 2, and if Evans goes, even the 1 down the line. So it's a lottery ticket, but that's why I think some people value him higher. So go ahead, Russ. Sorry, I just want to add that.
I will just say chances are if those 2 are both gone within the next year or 2, they're probably drafting a high-end wide receiver at some point too.
Yes, so that's really like I don't know if Jalen McMillan let's say Chris Godwin walks away, or they just don't re-sign him, whatever the situation is. I don't think Jalen McMillan walks into the Chris Godwin role. He'll be fine, I think, because he is okay. But Chuba Hubbard's the dude, and he's shown that he can handle that. Even on a mediocre to bad team, he still produces. And, of course, last week he put up like 32 points. He has a bit of a harder matchup this coming week, but still, I'm with Rocky. Even knowing what you guys have said about McMillan, I still send this for Chuba if I'm
100%. I agree, and I think I think I was more playing devil's advocate to why you would trade for McMillan, because
getting a young wide receiver for a running back that you don't care about is absolutely the goal, right? Getting a young wide receiver and a second, like that's beautiful.
And a 25 second in the deepest draft since last year when we said it was the deepest draft. So who knows? There's so many. The transfer portal has completely ruined the NFL draft because viewers might go back and things are getting messed up as we speak. I won't get into college right now, but Beck's hurt and viewers might go back. It's kind of a mess in the draft right now. So who knows what that second actually will be, but a few weeks ago it was a pretty deep class. So we'll see how that second plays out. Okay, next one. Another buying a championship. Derrick Henry for Tyrone Tracy, a late 25 second and a 26 second.
You go, Rock.
To me, even if I assume if you have Henry, you're probably a team that just got knocked out of the playoffs. So maybe you can think you're contending next year. That's not enough for me. I'm not a big Tracy guy. We talked about this before. He's 25. It's not, even though he's a rookie, he's not young per se. And he's 25 going to turn 26 next year. He didn't just like turn 25. So like 2 seconds, and you even specified late here. So like a late second and a second 2 years from now, and Tyron Tracy does like nothing for me. So I'd rather just hold him and see if he's still good next year. You know, he's, indestructible. Maybe he's still good at 31 or 32 or whatever the hell he is.
So this was me. And
I didn't even realize this was the Russ trade.
Pure anger. This was like, I thought I had this game. I lost by about 4 points, and I lost because of a lineup decision. And I was just like, you know what? You take Derrick Henry and you go in.
Get him off my team. He's bad.
It was the team that beat me. And I know the other team wasn't going to offer me anything. It did, in my mind, hit me for a second, like, what if he stays? I don't know what his contract is, but what if he stays on the Ravens
another year?
What if he does this again? Yeah, this will look bad if he does this again. But I was too angry. I literally I saw it and I'm like, you know what?
Yeah.
And hit the accept button.
And if he hits the wall next year, or
then you
has an injury in September, it looks fine. So
yeah, smarter.
Because again, like I keep saying that I hit this button very quickly. Another thing that did run through my mind is the Giants are going to be drafting a quarterback.
Sounds like it's Cam Ward if they don't mess it up and win against the Eagles next week.
Yeah, so like they'll have the 1 or 2, in which case I'm hoping they'll have a new rookie quarterback that'll dump off a lot, and Tyron Tracy being someone who can catch the ball. Hopefully that helps. But again, most of this was spite. Most of this was anger. Most of this was I didn't think through very much, because Rocky's absolutely right. This is quarters on a dollar. This was not $1 for $1.
Mm-hmm. By the way, with your point, Frank, that game could very much mean nothing to the Eagles next week.
Correct.
So it'd be kind of hilarious if the Giants do win that game.
I heard that on the car ride back this morning on the radio or something.
I'm pretty sure if the Eagles win this week,
they win the division.
They can't get the 1, but they already have the 2. Yeah, yeah.
So, looking at Henry's contract, they have him for another year, but they can cut him for $4 million as opposed to paying him $11 million next year. So
I can't imagine they cut him though.
Yeah,
I can't imagine either. He's looking too good, but we've said that before.
Yeah, you can never actually guess what NFL team.
It's monopoly money at this point. So, okay, last one. Sam Darnold for the terrible 2 of Diggs and Godwin, two injured guys.
This was me, so Russ can start.
Okay.
Yeah, I just don't know why you sell a guy who I think is. I mean, you have to believe that Darnold's going to be starting somewhere. Even as a bridge, I don't know why you sell him for 2 old hurt wide receivers. Like I don't get it.
And that was basically my thinking in doing it. I also, for more context, TA10, I had Cousins and Rodgers. That's my only quarterback. I have like 8 other backup quarterbacks, but I had Cousins and Rodgers, my only 2 starting quarterbacks. I did play week. I did play the first week, but then obviously didn't have Cousins for last week, and I wanted to try and win. And then friggin' John Bosch beats me by less than 2 points when Bucky Irving scores next to nothing in the second half. I was tilting the whole second half of that game. It was rough to watch. The Darnold trade almost paid off, and then it didn't. I was sure I was winning that game at halftime. He had like 17 points at halftime and scores like a half a point in the second half.
That Sunday night game was weird.
But that was my thinking. Yeah, the 2 old receivers. I think Darnold has, like you said, has future value. So like,
absolutely,
he'll probably be starting next year. So yeah, why not do that?
Yep. No, I don't have a ton to add. I definitely think Darnold will start somewhere. Somewhere I said was the Titans fit for Darnold because they play kind of that West Coast style that Minnesota does. So with Callahan, so who knows? Darnold will start somewhere. I think all 3 of us would agree on that. If it's a bridge or if it's a real
And especially since I still have another guy that may not start somewhere next year in Rodgers.
Yeah.
Yeah, it helps to have at least one quarterback. So.
Yeah. And the gears are turning in my head. You guys talked about someone needing a bridge for a rookie. What if Darnold was a Giant? He was in New York, but as a Giant to bridge Cam Ward, that would... I don't think he wants to do that again.
I know. That's what I feel like somebody, like, if nothing else, like the Raiders or somebody will sign him to be their starter for the year or something like that.
I think the dream is the Rams. I think if Stafford's done, the dream is the Rams, but I don't know if Stafford's done. I think we'll find that out this week because they play a terrible Cardinals defense at home. So that is the end of our show sheet. So that's going to be the end of our show. Thank you, Russ and Rocky, for hopping on. Russ for the 29th or whatever day in a row at this point, coming live on YouTube. So, so show note, we are off next week.
I was going to mention that. Yeah.
The season's over for most of us after this week, and
with the weird timing of the Tuesdays being New Year's and Christmas Eve, we decided, we're just going to take one of those weeks off.
We're going to take a week off. So we'll see you guys for Russ's Christmas of non-point scoring season starting, which is his favorite day. But our stuff, I'm Frank in the chat on Twitter and Blue Sky. Russ is at Dynasty Outhouse. Rocky's at Dynasty FF Addict. And, we have patreon.com/TradeAddictsPod. You can watch us while we record for days that we don't go live. We have the Cool Kids Club Discord. And then, Russ, I know we talked about this a little before, but Fantasy Care is just kind of in a break, but everyone keep donating. It's going to, the pictures have been great. The shopping sprees have been great. I don't know if Russ has anything to add on Fantasy Cares.
Well, keep your eyes open. We just don't have anything up right now, but playoff leagues are going to be coming soon. There's golf stuff that I know nothing about. There's going to be some stuff coming out. We just don't have anything open right now, but definitely fantasycares.org. Keep your eyes open.
Yep. And with that, I will say good afternoon, everybody.
That's so weird.
Good afternoon, Frank.